It's about time to get with the program.
Hey there, folks. Welcome to another episode of Progressive Rampage, where we're calling for you to get with the program. And by God, if you haven't figured out that now is the freaking time, I don't really know what else I could show you to help convince you, but I'm glad to be here with my co-hosts. I got the wonderful man from Maine.
Hello, this is Kris Kobach here, way up in cold Maine.
And I got this really weird anomaly. I thought Canadians were nice, but he's kind of an asshole. He's from Georgia.
That's right. It's Jessie Chaney, deep from the South. And for correction, I only spent 15 years in Canada. I'm born and bred U.S.
Oh, so that's why you're such an asshole.
Okay. That is correct. That's why I'm such an asshole.
Right. Well, hey, I'm kind of an asshole too. I'm definitely red, white, and blue.
I just hate cats.
But
fucking random.
Well, I mean, you've got the Maine Coon, right? Like the biggest fucking cat, like domestic cat there is.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah. Oh, I thought you were talking shit about my family now. Okay.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah. All right. Dude, my wife would love to have a Maine Coon. Anyway, speaking of Maine Coon, I think that's what Kavanaugh's trying to get all of his gropey hands all over, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, Mr. Rapist McGee over there.
Oh, goodness.
Well, and so here's my thing, and I'd love your guys' ideas on this. And so Bill Clinton, so let's talk about Bill Clinton a little bit, and I think it's going to go right into the Kavanaugh. So Bill Clinton was first put on trial for a blowjob, effectively, right? So effectively sexual, maybe not necessarily assault, but, on that same scale. But what he got, quote unquote, impeached, even though it didn't really, the impeachment trials went forward. Why? Because he lied under oath. And so I'm curious your guys' thought, where even if there is no proof to Kavanaugh actually being gropey hands 5,000 with Mark Judge, if his obvious deception under oath, if that's going to be his undoing, or if this is going to be just another episode where Republicans are strongmen and will stand up for the most evil, insane shit, and Democrats will be like, but we tried, and since we're not them, we just can't do anything, and they just show how weak and feckless they are.
Can I go first?
Please.
Okay. First and foremost, you've got audio, video, eyewitness testimony, everything else telling you what a fucking scumbag that Trump is, and grab him by the pussy in his own words. And he's still in office. Kavanaugh can walk into this Senate meeting raping a 13-year-old Boy Scout and mid-stroke answer questions, and he's still gonna get in.
Interesting.
I mean,
really don't think they're going to choose that tactic. But
I'm just saying.
You're saying they don't give a damn, right?
They don't give a shit. I mean, the Democrats are going to fucking bolster, and they're going to say this, and they're going to say that, just so that they have that street cred later down the road when they need it. But realistically, and I am not saying this didn't happen. I've watched bits and pieces here, but it's one of those things where in our household we got to kind of, especially this stuff, we limit. But realistically, if she wanted to have stopped Kavanaugh from ever getting to this point, why didn't she do her civic duty and do it with the bar? Because when he took the bar exam, I'm pretty sure that there's an ethics portion of that.
Yep.
Why didn't she come out then and stop him from ever becoming a lawyer?
I think that's putting too much impetus on a victim. Like
No.
I think that's a level of victim shaming. Like, why didn't you do it before? It's like, because she had fucking trauma. Like, do we tell soldiers, like, why didn't you try to treat your PTSD before? Do we say, oh my gosh, you have PTSD? We try to kind of understand. And I get that the natural idea is to be like, well, I get that you're saying this, but it's 35 years later, and yet look how many millions of women are coming out with why I didn't, report. And so,
and I get that.
I think it's best to,
I don't know.
Especially as a dude, I think it's best to sit back and watch and see how it unfolds. And trauma is not something that you want to talk about. Trauma often is much like depression. I don't know if either of you have ever dealt with depression, but depression is like it's like a friend that is there in your time of need, and it constantly comforts you, like a priest in a back corner that tells you that this is for your own good and don't tell anyone. And so it makes you feel ashamed of yourself, even if there's no rational reason to be ashamed.
And
it's hard to come out.
Right, and I understand that, and I'm not victim shaming in any way, shape, or form. The problem that I have right now is the simple fact that she didn't just suddenly remember. And again, I'm not attacking her specifically, okay? But we have seen a weaponized movement in the hashtag Me Too. We've got women making accusations against men that are completely and utterly false, yet the guys are still getting nailed for it. Even it's just that accusation. So it's they've weaponized the movement. And the thing that bothers me is that if she's a clinical psychologist, she's got the, you know what I mean, is I'm not saying it is this way, and I'm not saying it's this way. I'm saying it can be construed as a political issue now, is what I'm getting at.
Here's how I'd like to break it down for you, fellas. And first of all, I'd like to say alleged victim. There still hasn't been any proof that this actually happened. I could see Brett Fuckface Beer Kavanaugh actually doing this, so don't get me wrong. However, there is no evidence yet, and the FBI is going to be coming up with something, and guess what? We don't even get to see it, so hopefully it'll get leaked out or something. But hear me out, okay? Number one, I was a victim of sexual abuse when I was a teenager. I don't want to get into the details, but if you really need to know, my phone number is on the website. Call me, and I'll probably not even pick up. So I do understand. I understand depression. I know how all of this works. I know how memories work with these things because I experienced it myself. You get very vague memories, but distinct moments of the actual occurrence. Everything else surrounding it is vague and fuzzy. And for me, it literally happened, I don't know, like 25 years ago, something like that. Anyway, point being, see, there I go again. The point I'm trying to make is that I'm not trying to discount Ford. However, there are alternative theories to her coming out and giving the testimony that should be considered. There is a chance that utilizing the Me Too movement and knowing that Democrats will do anything to keep this elitist dirtbag who never ever sides with the people and always sides with corporations from becoming a Supreme Court justice at any means necessary. They don't care about the means they use. It's an ends justify the means scenario. And I can understand that. But there are some women who intelligently have pointed out that saying I believe survivors doesn't really mean guilty until proven innocent for the person getting accused. What it really means is that we need to start listening to people who have experienced sexual assault giving their testimony when they go to the police, when they talk to their parents, when they talk to a counselor, anytime, and make them feel welcome to be able to share it and feel confident that their confidence won't be compromised.
Oh, and I agree with that.
Because people want to go after them. But personally, I think the Democrats fucked up here. Yes. I think they fucked up real hard. Think about it like this. Some group came out and gave 25 names to Trump and said, pick one, and one of them can be your nominee pick. And he, of course, like the puppet piece of shit he is, did it. Just like every other president, by the way. So he picked Kavanaugh. Now, when you pick somebody to run for office and you're a campaign manager, the first thing you do is you hire a private investigator and have that person dig deep into your entire past so that you know everything that's going to come at you when people attack. Don't you think they would have found something like this? And if they did, why the fuck would they have picked Brett Kavanaugh then?
But they did. They knew.
I think they did this on purpose. I think they knew that it was going to happen, but that it couldn't be proved, so the Democrats could have mud in their face for the 2018.
No.
And to get this guy in so that he could pass a law that allows no overturning of presidential pardons. But that's my piece on that.
I think
so. That's definitely not beyond Karl Rove, because Karl Rove is that kind of mastermind, and we know that Brett Kavanaugh or Beer Kavanaugh is friends with Karl Rove. Now, here's the thing, though, is I think. And I could be wrong, but I think that you guys are looking too deep into it as far as it being this grand conspiracy. I think it comes down to nothing more than Trump he needs to surround himself with people like him, and he needs to normalize his own behavior. He's such a wretch, and he knows that. Like, there were reports earlier this year, I think, maybe it was late last year, where like he sounded like a sad little kid when it dawned on him that people really fucking hate him. Mm-hmm. And so I think that he's a sad little guy that wants to be liked, and another reason why he still does these campaign rallies is because he needs to be surrounded by, then be reminded that there are people that actually like him, and he's a sad little boy.
Yeah.
That said, I think that Democrats are playing this wrong because they're not willing to go for the throat the way that Republicans are. That said, I love that this is happening. Not necessarily because I want somebody to have false accusations, but
because it's
coming
making
to
an
the
open
Me Too
space for
movement,
these women, right?
Well, it's making an open space for these women, but it's also building up all the same grotesque mannerisms and behaviors that we saw of Trump, and then he got elected, and then it just had this crazy backlash effect, which I think having a Me Too movement that is weaponized, and keep in mind weapons aren't necessarily good or bad; they're just there. In this case, I think it's a good thing, and I would push back on the Me Too movement being weaponized en masse in any capacity for bad. I just haven't seen it. Even with Aziz Ansari, it tried to happen, and then Ashley, whatever her name, from HLN came out.
What about Chris Hardwick?
I haven't read that one, so
Yeah.
you've got news on me.
Yeah.
That said, but we got like a handful of people a handful of people potentially, and then just thousands of actual shitbags.
Okay, so
who really are and guys.
Okay, so let me throw a conspiracy theory at you then. Can I do that?
Sure.
Okay. So we know that Trump is this needy little bitch, and Trump needs to surround himself with the same locker talking, pussy stroking, realistically men that in their time they got away with it, but in today's date they get fucking shot point blank in the face.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not saying anything bad about Me Too or hashtag or anything else, but what if this is all just a big ploy to get the Democrats distracted and thus the social justice warriors and then CNN and everyone else to put this on trial? I don't give a shit about Kavanaugh. He's a fucking Yale graduate. Right there, Yale's a fucking rape school in the 80s and 90s, hands down.
Right.
But why they're doing this and why this is getting the play and why this is getting the news and why this is getting the attention, Paul Ryan and the other fucking scumbag brigade are passing laws through that aren't getting any attention.
Yeah.
Like they just passed that tax break of Trump's that gives the top 1% a huge tax break. And who has to pick up the bill? Oh, Social Security and Medicare and all these other programs now have to take a cut to pay for these fucking rich bastards' tax breaks. And once again, it's, smoke and mirrors, look over here, but don't look at what the men are doing over here. The man behind the curtain, period.
They're definitely
I think
taking
you're right
advantage of the situation.
and wrong, and I'd like to unpack that, but actually I want to hear Chris's response to this, though.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, I totally think that every time they ever want to pass something as grotesque as what Jessie just described there, they either wait for an opportunity like this that occurs, like every couple of months, or they create it.
Yep.
And, I want to throw out another conspiracy theory out there. And, folks, you can hate me to death. I'm not saying that she's lying, but I am suggesting that you look at some other facts about the lady. She heads the undergraduate program for CIA students at Stanford. Her uncle was like a CIA hitman that was outed in the 80s. She's definitely tied to that entire grotesque system of propaganda, to be honest. And furthermore, I think I read in some of the other right-wing shit that in 2008, she was part of a paper that literally speaks of creating false narratives in the memories of subjects so that they can relive things and work out problems in a safe space.
Yes, it's called Satanic Panic. See Geraldo Rivera and see everything from 1979 to 1993.
She's involved in all of this PSYOP shit. I don't know. Now, that doesn't say that what she said was a lie. What she said still could have happened.
But the problem is everything that she has said and everything that she is bringing up, there's a 35-year buffer. There is no... unless you guys bring Michael J. Fox in here to give me a hand job to send me back to the fucking future, no one ain't going to be able to fucking tell 100%, yes, this happened.
I'd prefer the hot tub method, but you know.
Well, I mean, hot tub.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just like human soup.
So,
and
so
I
let me
understand.
let me hop in for a minute. First, hot tub time machine. Don't play movies. Just fucking amazing. Second, as far as the conspiracy theories, I really don't think that Kavanaugh was specifically manufactured because of this. I think Kavanaugh was chosen because, I mean, Napolitano from Fox News, that same Napolitano, pretty piece of shit guy, is absolutely against Kavanaugh. Why? Kavanaugh was a young lawyer who actually advocated for the Patriot Act and how the Patriot Act actually got pushed through. So this is a police state guy through and through. He sides with corporations 87% of the time. And I don't think that there's a grand conspiracy to use him to create a smokescreen to do horrible shit. I think they realized that when as soon as Donald Trump won, they had 2 months to get together, this cabal of Hail Hydra billionaires. And say, well, look, this is obviously a bombastic guy. We can use his idiocy and his braggadociousness to smokescreen. And so they just are ever the opportunists, not necessarily manufacturing the Kavanaugh itself. That said, I did also read about Dr. Ford and her background, and it's really interesting. And it is a very smart ploy. I would not put it past the CIA to do this. And yet this is a case where I think there's a net positive enough to humanity to show that this guy does not have the jurisprudence. He does not have the temperament to be a jurist. And I think that they realized that, and all they had to do was basically get under his skin a little bit.
And you know what? So I have to say that's the cause of my headache for the past 2 weeks, and I agree with your assessment on that. That there is a net positive out of this, and that's people getting the confidence to be able to come out, and an easy way to show that this guy's a total dirtbag.
There's a hotline for rape and. Well, hold on a second. Just to add to that, there's a hotline to like rape and incest survivors that had record influx of calls. I think it was something like it bumped up 157%.
Yeah.
While Dr. Ford was talking. And so this was literally day zero and this happened. And so even though this could arguably be Machiavellian in that the ends justify the means, it seems to have a net positive as far as what it adds to the community.
I don't think they
but we
expected
need
it. Yeah.
And that's also possible, but we should be very critical of things that we use, because something like this could easily be a double-edged sword, especially if it's a hand wrapped gift from the CIA.
So here's wait, stop. So here's the problem that I got. Okay, I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you, but the problem that I have is this: you want to hang Kavanaugh, you do it on the merits of himself. He's a fucking idiot. An absolute fucking... There is enough there to hang him and disqualify him from the Supreme Court just based on what he's done himself as a judge. Meaning, we've got proof. We've got a court reporter who wrote shit down that he said. Right?
Yep.
The problem that I have is this. The ends do not justify the mean when it comes to this thing. When you subvert justice... you disgrace justice. And I'm not saying that this didn't happen. And that's the problem that I have. I can go back 35 years ago and prove if he was accused of murdering someone. I can go back and prove that. There'll be DNA evidence, there'll something. There's something hardcore, there's something A, B, C, D. There's a chain of evidence.
Yeah, but she was inside of a house full of people with beer amnesia. You know what I'm saying? Like, how the hell would they pull any evidence out of that?
How do they pull any evidence out of anything? That is why there is a statute of limitation on certain sexual assaults. And I'm not saying she wasn't. Don't take it that way. The problem that I have is they picked a very squishy, quasi something you could prove, but something you can't prove. There's never going to be a definitive 100% yes he did or yes he didn't, because we don't have fucking time travel.
And you know what else it's caused as a
And
side
so
effect
here's
is men having to use a caveat every time they make a comment that might not go along with the mainstream narrative currently.
I'll give you a perfect example. How many cases?
Don't get me wrong.
Cases in the last 5 years of college quote unquote date rape or rape cases have you? You can go through and look through tons of them, where it was after the fact and after 2, 3, 4 weeks, then the women came forward and said, "Yeah, I feel like I was raped because I really wasn't into the guy." How's that fair? And I'm not defending Kavanaugh by any stretch of the imagination.
That probably falls into the 2 to 10% they say that are false accusations.
Right. The problem that I have is they picked something that is so quasi attainable. It's like Josh said, that it's a Schrodinger. It is yes, he raped her, or yes, he didn't. But we will never know because we can never get that answer directly 100% identified. Because I seen reports that, oh, her best friend said she was never at the party and she never saw him and this happened. And then there's another report that says, no, what she said was this. And there's so much he said, she said. That's what bothers me. There's no hard evidence.
I got to try and unpack some of this. So you mentioned that we need to, if he's going to be brought down, he needs to be brought down upon the merits of who he is. So we live in a world where we can either see what's in front of us and see the facts of reality, and we can either choose to go with the facts of reality, or we can choose to decide, well, this is how I think the world should work, so this is the way that I'm going to act. And we have facts now that show that people don't care about facts. It's a fact that people don't give a shit about facts. People give a shit about their opinion, most of all, and then when they're proven wrong, they can say, well, that's just an opinion because it's their out. And so how do you create an environment where somebody can out themselves when those who support him don't give a fuck about the facts that he's committed perjury? Is that you have somebody say, this is what happened, and then his turn to say, well, look, I'm sorry that happened to her. I can't even imagine the trauma that she went through. And you know what? I have plenty of female friends. He even said that. But the way that he said it and the way that he's snarling is much like, I'm not a racist. I have black people to my house all the time.
Yeah.
And so he's now exposed again to the fact that he does not have jurisprudence. He does not have a temperament. And so what happened when she came out? All these major endorsements that he's got are now revoking him. Even the Bar Association said that they need to see how the FBI investigation goes through. And so she went to the bar without going to the bar. And I'm quite fascinated to see how this plays out. And really, in a situation where we know that Republicans don't give a fuck about facts and they're just going to ramrod something right through, no matter what. You've got to make it political. You can't just say this is how it should be. You have to go with the facts of how it is. And things, the way it is right now, things are so hyper-partisan and hyper-political that you either play the game or you get left in the dust. And she played the game and seems like she's playing pretty well.
Okay, no, that's fine. Okay, but I want to bring back a couple of points. You said perjury. What has he perjured himself on?
He perjured himself on back in when he was getting confirmed to the appellate court or the district court. He specifically was asked about the paperwork that was stolen from a Democratic operative's desk that specifically said not for mass dispersal or whatever. I can't think of the word. But anyway, and then he said no, that he didn't. But there's emails that say otherwise. And so we Senator Leahy was the one who pointed that out. So we have perjury from back then showing that he really shouldn't have been on there anyway.
Which, by the way, the Bar Association dropped him a whole notch because of it.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, there's enough there to disqualify him on his own merits. Again, this is the problem that I have: is a simple
not in political theater. In real life,
perjury is perjury. If you lie under oath, that is a punishable offense under the law, and perjury can be a felony. And if you have a felony, you sure as fuck can't be a judge.
And yet lying to the Senate is also punishable by prison time, and every single fucking cabinet appointment Trump has nominated has lied to the Senate, and not a fucking thing has happened.
Exactly.
So you can either deal with reality as it is, or you can deal with reality as you think it should be.
But it's
if
not
you
reality.
think how it should be, you run the risk. You run the risk of being left in the dust, because yes, reality is that lying to the Senate is punishable, but as a felony for you and me.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're at that high level of an elite, you're effectively untouchable.
Exactly.
The same way that we can see that Trump lying constantly, there's no effect. No, he's not held to account, and so we can deal with the world as it is, or deal with the world as we think it should be. We should try and make the world how we think it should be, but we need to deal with the facts as they are. And the facts as they are is hyper political, and you either play the game or you fucking lose. Because if they're playing chess and you're playing Hungry Hungry Hippo, or if they're playing Hungry Hungry Hippo and you're playing chess, whatever it is, they're going to play their game and they're going to get through, and they just need to convince all the knuckle draggers who are going to go out and vote. Because you know why? Because the people who rely on their frontal lobe and rely on higher intellect can use that intellect and say, you know what, the idea of me voting and it really mattering in a federal election is so minuscule, I'm not even going to bother. And that's exactly what they want.
But
so we can play politics.
It doesn't matter.
So sure it matters, but the thing is,
how
again,
so? I'm living in a
us.
state where they had a special election to put the Republican back into power because the non-Republican won, but they still had a runoff because they said that there was this and this and this that happened.
If you want to unpack my point about it not necessarily mattering, is that we can go to Kris Kobach, who was the Secretary of State of, or I think still is Secretary of State of Kansas, and is trying to become the governor. So he was in charge of the Voter Fraud Commission. So he actually runs what's called interstate crosscheck. So interstate crosscheck effectively is a list of names. And so let's say there's a Jessie B. Chaney, a Jessie C. Chaney, and a Jessie D. Chaney. Now, those don't really sound like black people, so chances are you wouldn't be a target. But still, taking this example, they could say, well, Jessie B. Chaney voted in L.A., and Jessie D. Chaney voted in New York, so D. Chaney must be fraud, so we're going to strike him from the record. And so he can't be there. And what they do is they actively remove the middle initial, so they're just matching first and last name in the most garbage way that they possibly do. And so this is where we can argue that it really doesn't matter because they're just gonna wash your vote.
Georgia,
I say if they're gonna do that, why make it easy for them?
Right, but Georgia just had to release a under penalty of law a voter registration list of people they wiped from the registry. 170,000 names in Georgia that have been removed from being able to be voted.
And so, again, I think voting matters. I'm not saying voting doesn't matter. I'm saying that an intellectual can use that intellect to thought experiment why it does not. Now, that said, we have proof that Debbie Wasserman Schultz and her, I don't know if it was her county clerk, they destroyed ballots. I still don't see anyone going to jail for it.
No, look at all the shit that happened in 2000 in Florida. They've got clear, undeniable proof that people destroyed ballots. Not a single motherfucker in jail.
Yep.
And so again, this is one thing. So they want to be so brazenly corrupt in such a asinine, in-your-face way. So smarter people just throw their hands up and say, "There's nothing we can do. Just go about our business." And the dumber people they can radicalize, and I hate to say dumber people, though it is kind of true, and it's not necessarily their fault because of the way that we've done on public education.
Less observant. I prefer that term. These people have some pretty great skills out there. It's just the thing that I've seen
in the last 20 years, and we're going to go 20 years to encompass 2000, okay, is the simple fact that they want enough people to vote so and I mean they as in the larger conspiracy or the whatever term you want to put it,
the corporate elites,
the corporate elites, the men behind the curtain. I don't give a shit what term you use. They want enough people to vote whatever they want to vote, so they can sit there and show that as long as they manipulate the results to get what they want, they can back it up by saying, well, for 33 million people in California voted for this guy, and then but it's all bullshit. Realistically, the only way that anyone is going to take any power back from this is to turn around and force the government to take money out of politics, which is, quote unquote, never gonna fucking happen.
Well,
we all know that. Really?
Yeah,
unless
really.
It's never going to happen with the current breed of politician, which is why I try to
We're trying to replace them
into the our voice and kind of activate your voice, because the current breed of politician are not going to vote to take away the money that did I see a statistic that Senator Feinstein is worth something like $94 million now, and something along those lines. And so she was in a pretty rich neighborhood before, so she obviously had some money. But at 100 or 200 or whatever a senator makes, $225,000 a year or whatever, that obviously is not coming from that. So they're not going to take away their own money, which is why we need an all-out working class assault of every effective level of office, from whether it be surveyor, school board, on up to president.
And representing every party they can, by the way, I need to add. Anybody out there who wants to delude themselves into thinking progress is going to come from just a Democrat or just independents, go fuck yourself. It's coming out of all of the parties. And there are people who are claiming to be conservative and Republican, and guess what? They want progress and all of this stuff we talk about just as much as you do. They just see a path different to get there. And so we need to bring these people together and actually be able to change the way that our government is being run. That's what I'm talking about, Jesse, what I'm saying. It is possible. It's going to take a fuck ton of work. I mean, the civil rights movement took nearly 100 years, and
what did it take? Right? And what did it take? It didn't take fucking votes.
It takes people in the streets. It takes people dying for the cause. It takes people chaining themselves to stuff. It takes people like those who broke into Ted Cruz's place. It takes people that were getting kicked out of D.C. today who were screaming out that they believe survivors. You know what I mean? It takes that, and it takes way more than we have right now.
And yet, the civil rights movement happened, and then what happened once the Civil Rights Act got placed into law? Everyone who was part of that, not everyone obviously, but most people who were part of that movement went back home, patted themselves on the back for a job well done, and left the very same people that they fought in the first place. No. They left the very same people that they fought for civil rights in the first place. So the people who were against civil rights, they left them in office. And then what happened? We now have greater wealth and income inequality than at any time during Jim Crow. New York, which is supposed to be this liberal bastion, is the most segregated state in the nation. And so this is why it takes a government overthrow.
Bush repealed the protections that we had placed because of the Civil Rights Act to allow the federal DA to have jurisdiction over those few states that were treating black people.
So here's my question. Okay, let's play a little history here. Okay, back in the 50s, right? Back in the 50s, this shit's been going on for a long time, even in the 50s. But until ABC and until NBC and until BBC, even fucking BBC, started showing the rest of the world how Americans were treating black people, no one gave a goddamn, right? I can tell you, I can close my eyes right now and tell you probably 30 or 40 fucking scenes that I remember growing up and seeing either in history class or TV shows or whatever from that era, because obviously I wasn't in that era, right? But it wasn't until the world started paying attention, right? That's the classic thing, though. Eyes of the world are upon you. That is what caused change back in the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s. Now, no one gives a shit. I can go on YouTube. I can post a video right now of a cop shooting a black guy out in front of my fucking house, and the fucking world ain't going to give a shit.
They're all going to view it and probably
But
thumbs
it's
up
because
and down.
but here's the thing, Jesse, is that you're basically getting to, no matter how powerful your voice or how powerful your movement, it's only as powerful as the cameras on it.
Correct.
And two, no matter how powerful your voice, powerful the cameras, powerful your movement, you've got to direct it. You can't just say, look at this cop who's shooting this guy. Holy shit, this is horrendous. Well, what the fuck are we going to do about it? And so when things like this are happening, whether it be the Women's March, whether it be, because you're right, we need people out on the streets to get shit done, but we need legislators to actually solidify it. And so when there are these cameras in place, you show up to those cameras and say, I'd like to make a statement. They're not always going to bite. I've been told no, thank you.
I want to see 20,000 people.
You can show up and say, I'm running for office.
Mm-hmm.
It's so much harder for you to be ignored. Doesn't mean they won't try.
So here's
but
my
running
question.
for office is the best way to be able to proselytize your views and get your ideas out into the marketplace of ideas and get people starting to talk about them.
Okay, so here's my question. I'm going to run a scenario by you, and I want you to tell me A, the military response, and B, the civilian response. Okay, only because you know what I mean. You've got that background. Okay.
Right.
The last Women's March was what, 28,000 strong, or was it 38,000? The last big march, right? So you got let's round it up and say 40,000.
Wasn't it like 1 million? Am I mistaken in that?
No, in
Chris?
DC, on the ground in DC. Okay, on the ground in DC. I want to see 40,000 people surround the White House and charge it. Military ain't gonna respond with fucking an airdrop.
Well, I mean,
DC police, they're not gonna have an armed response for 40,000. Short of anything other than that, you ain't changing shit. And I hate to quote Rambo, but unless you brought guns, you ain't changing the world.
You don't even need guns. You just need all the bodies outside.
Exactly. But
and
you still need that force.
Be willing to get sprayed in the face with mace, because that will happen eventually.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I would hate to see what would happen on the White House grounds with the current president if 40,000 people surrounded it and started shaking the fence.
I say 40, and then it turns into 80, and then depending on what he does, it's going to just cascade. That's what I see. And I'm not saying violence. I really am not, but I'm to the point that I ain't got $2 trillion. I ain't got $1 billion to buy an election. I'm just some poor schmuck that pays a third of what he makes to these fucking thieves and gets nothing in return.
We're going to have to go ahead and stop for a second. Speaking of not having any money, if anyone wants to change that for Jesse and I and everybody else, you can go and give some money to Patreon. We'll be right back.
We have a website, ProgressiveRampage.com.
We have a website, ProgressiveRampage.com.
Okay, and we're back. So let me reiterate my point. So it'll be a little bit more, but I'm going to take a more historical view on this. Okay.
Yeah.
Back in the beginning portion of our country, there were people I want to say that are like me, because I can really see that mind frame now of the simple point that it didn't matter what you did, the British were going to fuck you. It didn't matter how much you protested, they were going to beat you down or shut you down. It didn't fucking matter. And honestly, what I think I'm calling for is more of that patriotic beginning of our country type style of people. And the simple fact that I ain't got money to buy a candidate, and even if I did, it don't matter. I'm not privy to what is the next level of, okay, I ran for office and now I'm the senator for Georgia and I get pulled aside, on my inauguration, and it's, the fucking goons from the powers that be that are showing me footage from Zapruder that shows, if you don't follow what we say, this will happen to you, or they're literally putting a gun to my head and saying, if you don't vote like this, we're just going to kill you and make it look like a terrorist act. The powers that be are so goddamn entrenched, it might as well be 1774. Except they're not lords, and they're not the king, and they're not this. They are the powers that fucking be. It's the same concept.
They're the robber barons all over again.
Yeah. Exactly. And what I'm calling for is fellow patriots that love this country, but the idea that they were told of this country. And democracy is working just goddamn fine how our forefathers built it. It works for some, but not all. And all, man, go fuck yourself. Because instead of lords and kings, we've got rich billionaires, or we've got celebrities, or we've got titans of industry. Go fuck yourself. You're still not representing me. You're not representing the taxpayer or the other 220 million fucking taxpayers like me. I don't see Bezos paying a fucking ton in taxes. In fact, he's being sued as we speak because he pays such a low goddamn wage that the state has to compensate his employees just to make it to where they can live on welfare.
To that point, though, Jesse, I will let you know, he just raised the wage of all base employees there and at Whole Foods to $15 an hour.
Yeah, because he had no choice.
Because of that goddamn, it's because of that lawsuit, right?
Exactly. He had no choice.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter because he's been doing it for 15 goddamn years. He still made a butt ton of fucking money.
Yeah, more.
What does it matter? No one's taking his money.
He's effectively Lex Luthor now, right?
Okay, here's my question. Wait, stop. So here's my question.
Yeah.
If Jamal down the street from where I live gets raided tomorrow and has all his assets and property and vehicles seized by the PD because it's been rumored that he's a drug dealer, he's got to prove that all of his money did not come from illegal means. Yet Bezos gets to keep his billions and billions of dollars, even though we know he was taking cuts from Michigan to pay his workers $6 an hour, and then Michigan was paying the rest in welfare benefits under fraudulent fucking terms. How's that not illegal?
We, the people as a whole country, ought to be suing that motherfucker for wasting our funds. Yeah.
What about Walmart? Walmart does the same thing.
We also, and so while this isn't necessarily taxes or pay, we also know that words have definitions, and those definitions can be looked up. We know that Devil's Triangle is not a drinking game. No. We know that boofing is not flatulence. Exactly. And so we can look this up, and we know that lying to Senate is also illegal. And why is Kavanaugh able to get away with it, and why are the Walton family able to get away with it? Because we have politicians that are bought and paid for.
Right.
So
the system is rigged.
Is people show up, which is why we need regular people to unrig it, because nobody's going to save us but us. Nobody knows working class struggles except for working class people.
Right.
And so here's the thing, is that angry people act. And now may not be the time to be violent. I hope that we don't get to the point of violence, but now is the time to be aggressive and fucking angry.
So let me try another tactic. Okay? You took basic military tactics, correct? When they trained you in the military, right?
Yep.
Okay, so if you've got a encamped or entrenched enemy with machine guns, mortars, or whatever, are you sending one soldier at a time? Are you sending one tank at a time? Are you sending one plane at a time? No, because one at a time, they've got the superiority that they're going to destroy one at a time. And that's the problem that we have. It's one at a time. Look at New York with what's-her-face. She's flip-flopped so goddamn much. I'm wondering if they got her family being waterboarded somewhere or sitting on an island with someone with a gun pointed at their head and a webcam going, do what we say, or I'm going to shoot your cat.
Boy, is that excessive, but I hear what you're saying.
Right? One at a time don't mean shit.
So I like and I don't like, because I'm attracted to chaos, I like and I don't like what she's done. I like that she has nationalized a regular person, a bartender, to run for office on very promising democratic socialist policy, not ideas, not necessarily ideals, but actual policy. And I don't like that she endorsed Cuomo. I don't like that she quit saying Medicare for all, and now saying access to healthcare. But I do like that it's making people angry. I love that it's making people angry because angry people act out. Right. And the more people that look at Alexandria OcasioCortez are going to be saying the same fucking thing that I was saying to myself for 10 years before I finally started running for office, which was, why can't I do that?
Right.
I can speak well.
But
I can sling together a few words. I can read about policy. So why can't I do that? And you know what the answer is? Because I don't choose to.
Huh.
So what happens if I choose to? And so this is where I am now. Now that said, I don't have the money to hire professional staff. I don't have the money to have, the millions of dollars to have these policy wonks as well as these strategists to help me understand how best to use the political capital that I'm building right now. But I do know that when I ran for mayor, the Salt Lake Tribune reached out to me and said, "Hey, we're trying to talk to people who are running for mayor now. Can you get can we get a statement?" And they put my name in the paper, mentioned that I was inspired by Bernie Sanders, and people read that. People are like, well, fuck, here's a guy who's inspired by Bernie Sanders, a regular dude. Yeah, he didn't win, but neither did Bernie his first run. In fact, I think it took Bernie about 3 times before he finally won. And so here's another thing, too. If regular people like me who don't have a lot of money but are pretty savvy with, say, Facebook, even though I'm a relative noob at Twitter, you can make friends with people across the state. And so that way I can say, hey, Mr. Dude in St. George, my name is this. I'd like to have a discussion with you. We tease out where he stands on policy. If he says, you know what, I like your policy, I want to support you, what can I do? Well, you know what? There's this free app I know about. If you download it, you have free canvassing tools. And what I want you to do is I'm going to share with you this form that I have that are these questions I want you to canvass people on. And then when you knock on 10 of your neighbors' doors. If there's any friends that you have that live in different areas of the city, if you could bring them on board and do the same thing, it'll cost you nothing. It's a free app. And then import that data to me. And then there are ways to be able to satellite and still be a poor person in a relative poor person's campaign and be, if not necessarily win, you can at least be, man, my brain's drawn a blank. What's the word I'm looking for?
You can affect the narrative. You can get the stuff that is important to your constituency out there and into the zeitgeist so that people start talking about it. And when you do finally win that third, fourth, or fifth time, you can still run on a consistent platform.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Bernie didn't win, but he had a competitive advantage. He was still very competitive, and he didn't let that competitive advantage go away. So Bernie, the fight for 15 and this lawsuit against Bezos are really what did the legwork for Bezos to go through and push this $15 minimum wage. But Bernie's still out there.
No, the thing is they told him if he did not boost up the $15 an hour, they were going to sue him and take him to court and make him pay all those back wages back to the state. All the money that the state had to pay out, he was going to have to reimburse the state. He did basic math and said, well, wait a minute now. If I start paying everyone $15 an hour now, it's only $150 million. If I've got to pay all those back wages back to the state, it's $45 million. That's what it was. And the thing that gets me, and I get what you're saying, and I appreciate it. I really do, Josh. But I'm to the point now where it's not the angry villager that destroyed Frankenstein's monster. It was the angry mob of villagers, right? It's not the angry person who started the whole Revolutionary War in 1776. It was the angry mob. And the problem that I see...
Go ahead.
The problem that I see is everyone is more than willing to sit here and go, I'm pissed off, I'm angry. I am pissed off as a taxpayer. As a single taxpayer, I am fucking worthless. I'm worthless. But if I can get 60 million other people pissed off just as much as me, that turns around and then turns on the government, and I'm not saying violently, I'm just saying
but you could even
million people.
Jesse, you could even apply this to boycott scenario. You can apply this to getting people to go and vote for an independent candidate in a large municipality.
No. But the problem is you've got 60,000 people channeling into one.
Right, but
one doesn't mean shit.
Right. I'm not talking about one. I'm not talking about just voting for somebody. I'm saying in actual movements. The only thing that can overtake all the money is all the people.
Yeah.
Without the rest of us, what's the fucking point of these people owning companies and moving around the country and doing anything, right?
Well, I guarantee you, Walmart's not paying.
The only reason why we're all still breathing too.
Walmart is not paying a ton of fucking tax dollars. You are. I am. All the other people are. Bezos is not paying a ton of goddamn fucking dime in taxes. Trump hasn't paid a goddamn dime in taxes in what, 8 fucking years? These are the people that are in charge of it.
The New York Times came out with their article, their investigative reporting, showing that he got somewhere in the neighborhood, or rather the Trump kids, Fred Trump's kids, got somewhere in the neighborhood of $450 million, and instead of paying what I believe was supposed to be about 55% in taxes, they paid about 5% through shell companies, and it seems like blatant fraud. Now, here's the thing, though, Jesse, is that it seems to me, and perhaps I'm mistaken here, but it seems to me that you're saying 60,000 angry people are just going to be angry in the only way that they can. If they unite around one candidate, somehow their anger is only funneled through that one candidate. Correct. Why can't their anger be funneled through that one candidate while also calling the Senate offices, while also showing up? Because and like that lady who yelled at Jeff Flake in the elevator. So then he's thinking to himself, "Holy fuck, they found me!" Right. And then guess what happened with Jeff Flake?
Yeah, and then they'll insulate themselves.
Yeah, Jeff Flake. Well, hold on. And then Jeff Flake was on an article saying when he was asked, saying, hey, if you were running for re-election, would you have called for an FBI investigation? No, I wouldn't, because there's no incentive, is what he said. And so when we do this, we expose, so this is how it is. And if this is how it is, because these are the lawmakers, well, guess what? The only logical conclusion is that we need to become the lawmakers, and we can do that by being angry. We can do that by running for office ourselves and tipping our hats towards those angry people, and we can do that by running for office and not only tipping our hats towards those angry people, but we can help encourage more people to be angry and to show up. Because Bernie Sanders, it sure as shit is a cantankerous asshole, and that guy sure as shit summoned a lot of people to be very angry at the system.
And what did it accomplish?
It accomplished by waking more people up, man.
Great.
Everyone's got to be awake first before the action actually starts.
Right. Okay. So let's
it's
play
a long
history.
process, Jesse. But I know we're all anxious for it.
But let's play history. Okay. There is no difference what's going now in America. Let's take it back 600 years and go back to the start of it all, to England. Right. We are English by our very nature because that is who settled this country, where we are all talking goddamn English, right?
Right. Rule of law, all that stuff.
Rule of law, right. Okay. So go back throughout history and look. You had the lords, you had feudal princes, you had all this goddamn system. It wasn't just the king and the queen. They were being held down on a local level by a local person, and then so forth and so on. It went up the goddamn chain. They did it to other countries. They did it to other peoples, and it fared better in certain places than other places, like Scotland. It didn't take in Scotland worth a fuck because they kept killing that lord.
They kept pulling their dicks out. Oh yeah.
Right. Okay. So that is my point. Where we are right now is just a fast-forwarded version, a modern version of where we were 600 goddamn years ago. So it doesn't goddamn matter until people are willing to turn on their lords and their masters and their this. Like you posted that quote. I mean, you're not that into politics, but your boss is, your landlord is, your local politicians are. That's what keeps the wages low. That's what keeps everyone goddamn struggling. They want you to struggle so you don't pay attention. They don't want you to pay attention because you'll get pissed off. They don't want you to get pissed off because you'll band together. They don't want you to band together because it'll be a copy of 1775 all over again, where people are meeting at bars talking about how they're tired of being fucked in the ass by the government or the king. Just change the fucking word, and then bang, boom, boom, some asshole like me, or like you, Josh, comes along and ignites a goddamn revolution. Correct?
Right.
The struggle is real.
So let me ask you something real quick. So Jesse, Kris, do you guys know what the fastest growing belief system or belief is in this country right now, and by belief I mean religious.
Oh, because there's no fucking
the fastest
telling.
growing.
It could be Instagram.
Hold on. I think damn it, what's it called? Young Earth-ism?
Oh, flat Earth disbelief.
Disbelief is the fastest growing belief.
Atheism is the fastest growing belief. Why? Because we have access to answers.
Yes.
Lords were able to subjugate so much easier because they said, this is the way I was adorned by God. How do I know you're adorned by God? Because I said so. The Catholic Church says so. This guy wearing this really weird fucking hat and a cross around his neck that's worth more than this entire town, and all their aggregated wealth. And so, but now we have access to answers. We have access to scientific inquiry. We have access to people. We have access to wins at the blink of an eye.
Yep.
And so let's go back to Alexandria OcasioCortez. Alexandria OcasioCortez, 2 weeks before before her election, she was polling 30 points below Joe Crowley. 30 points. Joe Crowley's like, okay, well, if she wins, if she wins, then I'll totally endorse her. And then what happened? She won by almost 15 points. Why? Because she knocked on every fucking door. She didn't just knock on their door, but she gave them a reason to come out to vote.
Right.
Instead of saying, well, I'm a people person. Okay, well, what does that mean? Well, that means that I'm going to fight for you. Oh, okay, well, again, what does that mean? Well, that means that I'm going to be your voice. Again, what does that mean? She said, well, look, I want you to have a living wage. I want there to be Medicare for all. I want there to be free college at the point of admission. And so she's laying out actual things for people to weigh and say, well, you know what? This sounds like a good deal.
Mm-hmm.
And she made a 45-point disparity in the polls.
Right.
Because
Absolutely
she gave
amazing.
people a reason. Yeah, and so this is where if we have actual people running for office, giving them a reason to come out to vote and giving them a reason to stay mad so that they keep doing stuff. You don't need that anger to become toxic. You don't need that anger to burn you out from the inside out and then you're worthless, but you need that anger to keep putting that movement in your feet and that pep to your step. Go ahead.
Right? She talked to all those people. She came back those many points. She did this. She did that. Great. And what is she saying now?
Sure, but that's because
no. Exactly, and that is the problem.
That's what he's saying. Is that as we send good ones, they're more than well equipped to either change or obfuscate or make obsolete people like that.
Even though she came out and endorsed Cuomo, how does that negate all of the work that she did? How does that negate that Sean Hannity said, holy shit, guess what? This is scary. She wants you to have health care. She wants your kids to go to college. How does it negate that?
Because she's already proving through action and deed that she's not going to follow through with what she said she would if you got her into office, just like every other politician. And now people will say, well, Jesse, you're a fool because politicians lie.
But the genie's out of the bottle, man. These ideas are already out, and she can't wrangle them back in.
People are excited about it. Exactly.
People can show up to her office instead of the White House, and they can shake on the fucking bars and say, you fucking so-and-so.
But they can't do shit to her until she breaks the law or until the next election cycle.
They can make her life a living
hell,
and they can run candidates against her in a primary if she doesn't follow through.
Yeah.
Right. But realistically, there's nothing negative that can happen to her right now.
But do we need anything negative to happen to her? Cynthia Nixon ran against Cuomo. What happened? That motherfucker got rid of the IDC. Holy shit. They had zero reason to get rid of the IDC. The independent whatever commission, or if that's the right acronym.
The
and
IEC,
so it was all those. It was like
Independent Election Commission.
Yeah, it was a group of Democrats who were blue dogs that always sided with Republicans. That way, Governor Cuomo could say, "I want everyone to have Medicare for all." Oh, but the Senate won't vote for it. Gosh, guys.
Right.
And so even though running and just by calling it out, they're now dismantled. And this is the power of ideas. People are flawed, but ideas aren't necessarily flawed. They can be.
Okay, I'm going to use your Medicare. I'm going to use your Medicare as an example. Okay, the most evil, despicable, fucking two human beings that have ever been on the planet, I like to refer to them as super Hitlers, the bleep Koch brothers, paid for a goddamn study to prove that, no, the Medicare system we have now is what we need. Even though the study proved that if the government paid and covered everyone, they would save $2 trillion a year. Yet, muck, that ain't in fucking place.
Right,
so
they'd save $200 billion a year. The intellectual people, the people who can thought experiment themselves out of voting, are the people who we need to re-engage in the system. We're never going to convince people who aren't convinced now that Trump is a terrible human being. So we need to convince people who aren't engaging in the system, who aren't engaging in voting, who aren't engaging in running for office, and we need to figure out how to engage them. And what do intelligent people need? They need evidence. They needed to know, what is my vote going to buy? Is it going to buy a bunch of fucking anecdotal bullshit, or is it going to buy actual policy? And even if you start flip-flopping, I at least have something to go on so I can fucking scream at you afterwards.
But that's the problem.
You go back on your word.
But that right there is the system. That is the cycle of the system. That's
human nature. You may as well try. You may as well wish that we're aliens, that we get different. That we get some sort of different DNA. This is human.
It is
nature.
Not human nature. It is not human cycle. Our forefathers in 1776 proved that it was not the cycle.
Our forefathers in 1776 were a bunch of rich assholes.
Yes, they were. The people after the fact. After the fact. They still were able to galvanize a bunch of fucking dumbass, poor British people to turn around and say, look, your king is a 5-month boat trip that way. You can feel free to tell him to go fuck himself.
Guys, I have a theory here.
I think Kris is
Hear me out. Now, in the last election, it was pointed out after everything was said and done and the dust settled and Trump won the electoral and Hillary got a few extra votes than he did. What was noticed was the ever-increasing gap of people who became apathetic either after the primary or they were to begin with because they could see the writing on the wall that a Republican and a Republican that they didn't like was going to win. That's also Republicans thinking this too, not just Democrats. So there's a whole vast majority of the people who could vote who chose not to vote. So that means that we haven't had a president that was based on the majority of the population. Opinion technically since I don't know, maybe FDR, because since then people have more and more have widened that gap. It's like 43 to 45% of the population that could vote didn't vote or voted third party, but that's a really insignificant tiny bit, which is also fucking sad. But hear me out now. The key is that we're all saying we have to capture those votes. We got to figure out how to reach those people, but we're still going about it the wrong way. Most people are thinking that one style of ideology is going to reach all those people, but all those people, the only thing they have in common is not ideology, it's virtue.
It's working class.
What I believe they want, in whether they're Republicans or conservatives or Democrats or liberals or leftists or fucking socialists, what everybody wants, what I want, what you want, Jesse, and definitely the 19 people that might be out there listening to me right now, what you want is someone who's going to actually not burn when you hold their feet to the fire. You want someone who says they're going to do something and then they never quit for 40 years trying to do that. And not even Bernie Sanders has been able to commit to that, because Bernie Sanders would have gotten more accomplished if he'd actually just pushed a little harder against the war machine. That's my only critique of the man otherwise. But we need 100 Bernie Sanders in there.
Can I tell you what I want?
We need 400 Bernie Sanders. And then you'll pick up all those apathetic votes, because all they want is someone to actually be honest and say, I'm going to do this, and then not fucking flip-flop and not take money from some back alley motherfucker or some Russian dude. You get it?
Can I tell you what I want?
How hard is that to do?
Can I tell you what I want?
Okay.
I want a system that doesn't require on one person to represent 500,000. I want a system that doesn't require some fucking figurehead jackass like Trump. I want a system that is going to actually benefit the whole of people who put into it. I want money the fuck out of politics, because I don't want people in politics. People are fucking stupid, they're corrupt, and they're assholes. Pure and goddamn simple. I want a system in place that takes all of these fucking minimum wage employees is what they should fucking be, and take all of their salaries away and put it into a fucking universal fund that then turns around and pays everyone a universal fucking income. So then now I'm not struggling. Wait. I'm not struggling.
Everyone wants that, Jesse.
Well, then fucking fight for it. But no, the powers that be and the system in place does not want that and will not allow it.
But you know what this reminds me of, Jesse? What you're saying, like obviously everyone wants that shit.
Yeah.
But they don't necessarily know how to fight for it. What your argument reminds me of is my brother and my stepdad screaming at me and yelling. Well, my brother wasn't screaming, but he was definitely condescending. My stepdad definitely got super mad at me that I voted for Jill Stein, even though she got less than 1% of the vote, and somehow I swung the election. And they said, well, if we're going to have a third party, you just need to change the system. Well, what the fuck do you think I'm doing trying to change the system? That's why I fucking voted third party. Mm-hmm. The thing is, Jesse, yeah, we all want that. We all want people to survive, or not just survive. We don't want just people to, what Republicans say, eat shit and die, and Democrats say, eat beans and get by. Like, we don't fucking want that. We don't want to eat shit and die or just be able to scrape by. We actually want a quality, dignified life. But the thing is it's not a single one-way approach. You've got to be a scattered approach. Like Kris said, you've got to have multiple parties.
But
just period. You got to have.
But the system is the problem.
You got to have regular people. But the thing is you know how Republicans got super control over the country? Was something like 107 state seats. Karl Rove, like fucking mastermind, sitting there like mum raw looking into some scryer's pool or something. He says, let's go ahead and get these 107 seats, be able to redistrict all these states, and then we'll just have this super majority. And it happened at the local level. So many people are fascinated at the national level only because it's fucking sexy. But the local level is where you're going to get much more immediate.
Hold on.
And the local level can win or lose by a single vote.
Okay.
And often there's nobody to fucking vote for. And our system doesn't allow you to vote somebody out. You have to vote somebody in and displace them.
Okay, stop. This is my point. You're taking 500,000 to 600,000 people and condensing it into one person that can be bought, one person that can be blackmailed, one person that can be flipped. What I'm getting at, it's 2018. We can figure out a system that allows 60,000 people in a district to vote. How the Koch brothers going to buy 60,000 people? You ain't. How's fucking Big Pharma going to buy 500 million people in California? They ain't. That's my point.
But we've got that.
You guys are distilling
on a local level.
The system is flawed. Is what I'm getting at. It doesn't matter.
Well, of course, it's flawed.
So
and the only way to fix it. But the thing is that's not going to happen.
So
we need to deal with either reality, as it is, or reality as we want it to be.
You work for
reality
a
as it is people. People aren't willing. People aren't willing to sacrifice for that yet, Jesse. And since they're not willing to sacrifice for that, we have real demonstrable means to change the system.
Because people aren't ready.
Legislatively.
But because people aren't ready is exactly what's held society back for 500 fucking years. People aren't ready to understand that the world is round.
And if you run for office, then you can get more people to be ready.
But the problem is, it doesn't matter what you do for office. It's a system that is flawed.
On that pedestal. You can be that person on that pedestal, getting people groomed and ready.
So I'm the next guy to take my inaugural fucking ride downtown in a convertible.
You know what?
Thank you.
But you don't
Dr. King was an politician. You don't have to run for office to do what Jesse wants to do.
What happened to King?
You have to fight. Well, of course he got shot because he started up with the thing that started back again, the Poor People's Campaign.
Right.
He started talking about economics and not just race. That's
one
what got
person
him
can be
shot.
bought. One person.
What I'm saying is, and one person can raise the voices of millions if you figure out a way to do that. And you don't have to be a politician to do it. That's all I'm saying.
If people understand the flaw in the system.
We need to lead by example, Jesse. Are you out there saying fuck my job? I'm just going to go and start burning shit down? No, you're not. And so we got to start somewhere. And we got to do something that's realistic within our means, not just this fanciful idea if everyone bands together. There's a guy that I fucking love that I work with. He's so full of great ideas, but he just keeps talking about, well, if workers just strike en masse, well, they're fucking not. And if it gets to the point where they are, then we should definitely groom that. And we should definitely fan those flames and get it going. But until that day comes, then we need to do what we can. And right now, the most effective thing that we can do is run for office. Because again, even if you don't win, there is no such thing as a zero-sum game for ideas. There's a zero-sum game for your office. You either win or lose. It's a binary option. But for your ideas, as soon as your ideas enter the marketplace, they can become viral in the literal sense, in that it attacks the host, but also in the figurative sense, in that it goes viral and it just goes en masse and people keep spreading and spreading. And this is why we need to, if I don't have the ability to take a torch and burn your house down because I'm going to get fucking, the White House or whatever, because I'm going to get shot, I'm going to get put in jail, I'm not going to be around for my kid, then why can't I burn down the house of cards your ideas are fucking made of? Why can't we take the exact same physical principles and apply them to ideas and get people fucking mad? And again, the more people who run for office, the harder it is for them to be ignored. And the more people who run for office with the same ideas that are about benefiting humanity, well, guess what? Just as your point about the civil rights movement, then the ABCs and the NBCs, the CNNs, they start listening. And just as as I mentioned before, the power of any good peaceful movement is only as powerful as the cameras watching it and the cameras that are advertising history, and broadcasting. And
our history as Americans has proved
we need to hijack working mechanisms and use them for good.
And our history has proven that peaceful demonstration doesn't do shit. Because one side gets violent.
We pat ourselves on the
blue. You understand? It does work. It just takes insanely long. The revolution seems like it took a long time, right? The actual war. But in fact, that was the fast track.
Yeah.
And at that point in time, you have to remember, Jess, there was not a giant gap in wealth or weapons between the people who were fighting and the people who were in charge. That all has changed as well, because
so what did they learn?
Instead of the government running everything, it's corporations running everything now via at the will of the government. So we're at a point now where it's going to take a whole lot more than just a hot war that lasts a couple of years.
I'm not. But that's the thing is what I'm getting at is I'm not telling people that it has to be a war. War is just a battle cry.
Into one though, wouldn't it?
That's not my problem. If I choose peaceful and I've got 40,000 people behind me saying we're not going to take this shit anymore, it's not my fault if they pull up the kid soldiers to fucking shoot me. That's victim blaming right then and there.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
But yet our history has proven the government will react with violence.
In fact, they proved that they would when you look at the water protectors, right?
Right. So my point is this: why can't people wake the fuck up? Stop listening to CNN.
They can be buffered.
Demand the system gets opened up. It's not 1776 anymore. It's not. I'm talking to you via computer, and we live fucking thousands of miles away from each other.
That is pretty cool, isn't it?
Right. So you're telling me that no one can come up with a system to get rid of all of these fucking leeches, scumbags, representatives, senators, fucking governors? Go fuck yourselves. All of these single
not until we get money
people.
Out of politics, like you had mentioned.
But that's how you take money out of politics, right there and there, instantaneously.
And that is the best answer you can give. But in the last 3.5 minutes that we have here, gentlemen, how about everybody just go around and give off just the biggest, broadest thing you can do best for yourself to try to change the system.
Love you, Chris, love you, Josh, and I do really appreciate what I see you do. I really do. That's what I'm going to put out.
Thanks, man.
Okay, so loving Josh Cameron. That's what white people in the world can
love him.
Along. Okay.
So here's the benefit of we're sharpening our swords. Jessie has the whetstone against my ideas, and I have the whetstone against the sword of his ideas, and we make them sharper. And as you can hear, we don't always agree, but it's good. And talk to people who are going to push back on your ideas. Don't talk to people who are just going to pat you on the back and say, "Yeah, that's right," and fill you with some fucking echo chamber, because sycophants are no good.
An echo chamber
not a
make you
single
deaf.
time. Yes, there's not a, and then stand up, guys. You can do it. Make your voice, figure out how you can get the biggest magnifier for your voice, your ideas. I say it's running for office, no matter how big or small, and I think that's where it's going to be most effective. But either way, whatever you have the means to do.
Yeah, and I say it's going to be more along the lines of us fucking poor pieces of shit that pay our taxes every week out of our paychecks because that's what keeps us fucking poor. Contact me at jchaney2014gmail.com, and I don't know, we'll fucking figure out something.
And I think that people should seek out the very people that they disagree with
and make
try to
friends
get
with
a
them.
sincere answer out of them. It's going to be tough. You might have to ask 10,000 people when it's kind of easy to do on social media if you're savvy enough. But I think you need to seek out people who don't like your positions and ask them why they don't. And then put yourself in their fucking shoes while they say that and really, really, really consider the possibility that you're wrong. That doesn't mean that you are wrong. It just means that you're keeping your mind open to possibilities where there could be compromise that you otherwise are unrelentingly refusing to compromise.
Yep.
And I think that is something that can really help to change the country that we live in.
And if you're going to be sincere about it, remember, don't treat people how you wanted to be treated. Treat people how they want to be treated, which means take the time to figure it out. Figure out how they like to be treated. Figure out their point of view from their shoes and treat them how they want to be treated. Because I may want to be treated like an asshole. I may like a fat white guy yelling at me by the name of Jessie Chaney. But you know what?
Fat, fuck you.
Not everyone does. Sorry, man.
And I'm more along the lines of if you're a fucking multimillionaire and you're going to get paid next week, I'm going to come to your house and take 20% of what you got because, hey, that's taxes, right? Unless you're rich. Fair,
right.
fair.
Well, everybody, it's been fantastic. Thanks for tuning in.
Yep.
And check us out next week or two, and we'll have some more new shit.
Bye.
All right, guys. Love you. I got to go.